I'm Jason.
I'm Stephen.
I'm Jason. I'm Joe.
This is Tennessee Mountain Homestead, and today we're back out in the shop to get back to work on Colt's John Deere 111. Now, this thing's been hanging here for 2 weeks now, and we've done some work over the past 2 weeks on and off when we have time to do it. And hopefully today, we're gonna have this thing back down on the ground and test drive it around the property. Before we get started today, we're gonna take you guys back in time to get caught up on what we've done up until now. What's up, everybody? It's the following Saturday. It's been almost a week since we were working on this tractor. It's been hanging here in the air ever since. But last episode, if you recall, we have the transmission fitted in there. We got the shifter hooked up. So we're ready to go on that front. The next thing we need to do is take these brackets that we fabricated back off the tractor. We're taking the transmission all the way back out, and we need to paint the parts that we fabricated. And I need to do something about the clearance I made in the frame for the back bolt on the transmission. Now, something else we're gonna start to work on is taking off this pulley up here on the engine, up here on the front, the tensioner, and all that, because that's gonna be hopefully a 6-inch pulley up there. We need to cut the new hub that we got from Tractor Supply down to make the new pulley the same height as the stock one. And once we get all that back in place, we'll figure out for a belt. Next, this tractor is gonna need some new rims and some new tires. Now, when I say new, I mean 40-year-old rims from a John Deere 200 series we got out in the barn. It's gonna be a couple weeks before we get tires for this thing. So we're gonna end up putting his regular tires back on. We might swap with the 120, the L120, the Rebel out there. It's got the 24-inch agricultural tires. We'll see if those will fit, but right now we're looking at getting 23s. So we're probably gonna put his wheels and tires, they're right here. They came off of it back on in the meantime until we can get tires. But that is a slight issue because we don't have hubs. So the hubs that we're gonna get are gonna come from my new Sears build. Now, I'm gonna put a John Deere axle under that thing, and I'm not gonna be using the 2300 that came in it. So it has some 3-lug hubs on it, and we're gonna go ahead and work on getting those off. We'll clean them up and we'll paint them black, and those will be the 111's new hubs. So with that, let's step over here. We've already been looking at this thing, and this is also gonna be footage for when I strip this Sears down. So when I do that video, it's not gonna have wheels and tires on it, unfortunately. So we'll use some of this footage for that. Anyway, the way these things are on there is they've got a set screw. And I'm pretty sure this is a keyed hub. What it is, it's a 9/16 nut at the base of the set screw, and then it's got a square on the end of that, which happens to be 7/16. Fortunately, this one came right off. It was, as soon as I loosened it up, I could unscrew it. And I guess Stephen got his off too, it's right there. So we're gonna pop tires off this thing, and hopefully the hubs will come right off without much of a fight, but y'all know how that goes.
That's it. Look at that.
All right, so Stefan's hub that he worked on came right off. This one is being stubborn. So I made a piece out of this unistrut coupling. I just welded a nut to the back side. I've got a bolt on the front side. What we're gonna do is attempt to clamp just with C-clamps this metal piece to the hub, and then use the bolt to push in on the axle, and hopefully it'll just pull this whole thing off. We're gonna find out. All right, guys, let's see if it's gonna work. Nope. Oh, that was it.
Why do you saw that idea?
All right, well, I tried and I failed. I broke that hub So now it's literally useless, and I gotta find hubs for his tractor. You win some, you lose some. It's very unfortunate that I broke the hub on that Sears. I'm actually pretty upset about it. And I have a solution to get it off the rest of what's there, and it may not be very nice. So that'll be another time, probably in the next video. But for right now, we're gonna switch gears and we're gonna focus back on taking the transmission down. And we have other stuff available for hubs. So, like I said, we're gonna take this stuff off and paint it, and we're gonna get started. And I think Crusher is gonna do some of that work. You ready, bud? All right, let's go. All right, so we're back over here. The transmission's out, and I opened this up last time and cut through a bunch of layers of steel and into the side of the trailer hitch. So what I'm gonna do now is just glaze over it with some weld to close that up. And then once that's done, we will shoot it back to flat black. All right, I need flat black, stat.
But there's none in here. I must have weeded it out.
Look how small this pulley is.
No, I know it.
And then a couple years ago when I was putting this back together, this is a tensioner pulley, I'm guessing, because I had to build this custom threaded assembly and kind of duplicate it from a diagram I found online because that was missing and this was just bolted somehow all the way maxed out. All right guys, before we take this pulley down, we need to make sure we know how high it was before. So that looks like 1.25 inches.
Yeah.
To 1.25 inches to the center from the frame. All right guys, so underneath the tractor to hold the tensioner in for the belt, there's a carriage bolt under the motor. So I had to take out the bolts that hold the motor down. We're gonna pick the motor up a little bit and try to get that bolt out because it's right where the pulley needs to go, the new bigger pulley. All right, that was it. Now we're gonna bolt the motor back up. Well, we got that bolt out from under the engine. It rode right here in this track. It was a carriage bolt that slid with the tensioner. That's all gone, that's gotta go away. So the engine's bolted back down to where it needs to be, and we have this belt keep left, and it's welded to the frame pretty good. So we're gonna go ahead and cut this off and then start fitting the pulley. All right guys, here's the 6-inch pulley. Here's the moment of truth. and it clears. There's the head of a bolt is right there, but that's no big deal. It's probably gonna be tough to get the belt on. Let's see where we're at. So it turns out this is a Tractor Supply pulley and a hub. That's the 1-inch hub that you get off the shelf. That's a 6-inch pulley. It does fit, but the stock collar that went between the old pulley and the crankshaft still works just like it should to give the correct spacing that we're looking for. So we needed it off the frame. We needed it to be 1 1/4 inches. And that's exactly what it is. You see that? 1 1/4 inches to the center of the pulley. So we're gonna go with that. That's taken care of. And what we've got to do now is move to the transmission pulley, and we need to cut that down to size. Well, I think that's gonna be it for tonight, because the truth is, I went to work today, today's Saturday, and I got home about 2:30, immediately started working on this thing, and we got this far, made some mistakes, but we made a lot of good progress. So tomorrow, we're gonna get back at it, and we'll see you guys then. What's up, guys? It's the next day, and the first thing we're gonna do is chop this transmission pulley down, at least the hub part of it, so it'll be the same level as it was when it was stock. Back over here at the welding table, I've got both transmissions on the bench. I've got the stock pulley back on the 801, and this is the 5-inch pulley and the new hub on the 820. Now, how I'm gonna figure what height the pulley needs to be at, so I take this piece of 1/2-inch bar, and I push it into the groove of the pulley, and that stabilizes it. It's basically level with the transmission. Come over here to the mounting point with a tape measure, and I've got 3 1/8 inches off the mounting point of the transmission to the center of the bar. Now, when I take it on this pulley, do the same thing. I also come out with 3 1/8 inches, which is pretty convenient, because last time I did this, I don't know if I measured like that, but the last time I cut both sides of this hub. This time I only need to cut one side. I gotta cut off some of this excess material so it goes just down below where I can get a snap ring on it. And we're gonna do that with a bandsaw and a piece of threaded rod. All right, here we go. I got a makeshift lathe, if you will, with a bandsaw and a drill. Colt, go ahead and pull the trigger. Pull it faster. Now that we got this thing cut, let's go ahead and test fit it on the transmission. So the object was to get the snap ring to fit. So there we go. The snap ring indeed fits, and it has almost actually 0 play. That's just the end play of the input shaft. So I'm gonna go ahead and I'm going to remove the paint, the finish off of this. Off of this, the engine pulley also, we're gonna weld these up. Go ahead, Crush, take it off. Good job. All right.
Dad, I'll go with you.
You don't have
she's still smoking hot, but you can see that's the one side that's going to be facing up on the motor. And then this side, I went a little faster, and I didn't make my circular figure E shapes. I just kind of drug it around and moved it a little bit. And I wish I had a carousel, because that way the weld could be continuous. I think it would look a lot nicer, but for now, I just got to stop and start and move around it. What we're doing now is prepping everything for paint. So we got the pulleys all welded up, as you just saw. I've got these pieces that Stefan fabricated that they go on the transmission like this, and I've marked them right and left so we don't get them mixed up because they're not identical. So that's those. They're all cleaned up and we took the sharp edges off. We're gonna paint those. And right now, this is the shifter, if you guys recall, that I spot welded or tack welded in a couple spots. Well, I just ground those down so I can make one nice solid pass. I'll flip it over and do the other side. And I think that's it for our fabricated pieces for now. We'll spray paint those up, put them in the oven, and then we're gonna move on. I think that'll hold, guys. So we're gonna go ahead, just wire brush this down good, clean it up, put some acetone on it, and then we will paint our parts. And I think Mr. Crusher himself is gonna do that. You gonna paint, buddy? All right. We're out here in the paint booth, and I'm gonna start by painting the shifter because for whatever reason Colt doesn't want to do that, but he's gonna paint the other stuff.
A little bit of fat bat makes it all the way.
Look, buddy, you missed a little spot right there. No, on the back. See it? You can see. You gotta make sure you don't miss any spots. Not too close, not too close. Back it up. Right in there, yeah. Now you gotta get all the sides and everything.
It's like decorating a Christmas tree.
We got the parts in the Tennessee Mountain Homestead Easy Bake Oven. We're gonna bake it low and slow at about 170 degrees, which is as low as it goes. But we're gonna close that up and we're gonna call it for today. It's Sunday afternoon, getting to be Sunday evening, and yours truly has work tomorrow. So with that, we'll see you shortly. All right, we're back. Now, we're gonna go ahead and get started putting this thing back together. So we're trying to figure out a vent for this transmission because when you run them at high speeds, you absolutely want a vent because it'll push fluid out wherever it can. So what I came up with is this. I've got a whole box of brass fittings that I keep from over the years, and I've got a coupling that you have to cut down some of the threads off of it because otherwise it'll thread too far down and hit the shifter and it won't shift, or it'll get hung up. And then I put a 90-degree fitting on that because the barb cannot come straight up out because the belt looks like it'll be there, and we've got the shifter. So what I've come up with is this device here, and then I had to actually shave a little bit off of this boss where the shifter detent goes down in so that it would turn, and I had to cut a little bit, a 1/16 of an inch off of that, but it threads down in there now. We've got our plumbing tape on it, and we should be off to the races. We got one more turn, and it's gonna face out to the side like that. Hopefully we can get a hose to come out and sneak it by. And now the shifter does not hit. So we're good to go. We have a vent. Now we can move along. Well, we got the transmission back in and everything's all bolted up. The brackets, everything. The shifter's hooked up, it works. Here's our vent facing out the side. That's gonna work great. We got the front pulley on, which is a 6-inch, and the transmission has a 5-inch pulley on it. Now, I almost can't believe it, but the belt that was already on it, it works. Check this out. Push the clutch. It goes completely slack, and then it actually has decent tension once it's engaged. All we had to do so far, there's a little belt keep right here, a little wire belt keep up on top. We just had to loosen the bolt and turn it, rotate it in so the belt doesn't rub on it, but it still holds the belt. We're gonna have to put back the belt keep that goes back here. It bolts from these mounting holes, runs across, it's like a wire belt keep. We're gonna have to do a little bit of modifications to that since now the belt is narrower, but it's great. And then up on the front, I had cut this piece off. This is one of the belt keeps that was on it before. And then it had a tensioner idler pulley that was on this side of it. So what we're gonna have to do is either reincorporate this piece and re-weld it up in here, just where kind of where it was before, but a little further back, and do something on this side, because when we hit the clutch, can you come in here and look? Watch the front pulley. When you hit the clutch, if you notice, the belt comes off the sides, and that's what we don't want, because when the engine's gonna be spinning, it's gonna tend to pull the belt still. So we gotta keep the belt, just like on any other setup, we gotta keep it narrow right here with some keeps. So once we get those fabbed up, probably just reuse this and make another one for that side. This thing's gonna be ready. And we've also got another small surprise in store for you soon. All right, so this stock belt keep that I cut off from before, it works really good. And I'm gonna go ahead and make another one out of this piece of scrap metal that I've got. Happens to be the same exact width and everything. And so we're gonna make another one out of this. But something else, Mr. Crusher here lost a tooth. Show him your toothies. The top one, see it? Smile. So he's gonna be in the shop with us for now, but he said his tooth, it hurts a little bit when it came out, so that's where he went before. Anyway, let's get busy. guys, so it's pretty close, the dimensions. So what I gotta do is find something like this, a piece of metal like this, to stiffen the whole thing up and weld to the back side so that it gives it some extra strength under there. But once we get that done, we'll be back in business. All right guys, so here's what we got. This is my makeshift belt keep. We already cleaned off the paint from the frame. We're gonna stick it up here, right where I think it needs to be, and we're gonna tack weld it. So here we go, we got our belt keeps on both sides. This is the stock one, this is the makeshift one. And I turned it around. It used to face the open side where you can take the belt in and out. It used to face outwards, but I put it facing inwards because this one I had to get it as close as possible. And then this one I just did matched. And I think we'll still be able to get the belt out just fine. Yeah, see? Belt can go in and out of those keeps, no problem. So what I'm gonna do now is take this pulley back off and make them nice and stout with the welds. We got our belt guides all welded in. We're gonna go ahead while it's still hot, hit it with some flat black. Oh yeah, she's hot. While I'm working on this back belt guide, this keeper for it's made out of wire, just trying to fit it in there with the bigger 3/8 bolts. And while I'm doing that, I have, in the last 2 weeks, I scored these off eBay. They're 3/4 inch bearing, 8-inch wheels. I think they're 5.5 wide. And this 111 is going to get these 19-inch Sun Fs because Stefan replaced these on his tractor with 21s. All right, so if you look here, this is the stock wire guide. I've got it bolted in. With the bigger pulley, the belt used to ride out here, obviously, on the edges where it goes up, so that when the clutch was pushed in, the belt could not expand out. It would rest on here and not be able to move. So what I got is some 3/16 round that I bent into this shape. What I'm gonna do is hold it in here with a pair of vice grips or something. So it's just like how it needs to be right there up against the belt. Like that. And then I'm gonna tack weld it in here on both sides. I got 2 of these. And I'll take this thing out, weld it up good, and then that'll be it for our back belt keep. All right, so here's the new rear belt keep. Couldn't leave well enough alone. I added another piece of the rest of that 3/16 round I had. So now it's doubly thick across the bottom here, which means it's double stout. So we're gonna go ahead and step over here into the paint booth. And we're gonna just go ahead and give it a little spritz while it's still hot from welding. And flat black is the name of the game. All right, the belt guides and keeps are all done. You just saw us build this wire one in the back. Well, we just built out on the stock one. So that's there, it's working good. The front keeps are there and working good. It's very similar to how it was stock, so I don't foresee any issues. And when I rotate this whole assembly, on the compression stroke, of course, let's get past it, and it doesn't hit anything. Everything's very close. And when I push the clutch in and release, you'll see this is the clutch mechanism here. Let it go. The belt rests on the guide in the back. It can't spread out. It rests in our keeps up front, and the belt is slack. See, if the engine was turning on the compression stroke again, but it has no control. The belt does not grab the pulley at all. until it's tight again, obviously. And I've learned that when you turn a belt system slow, the same thing happens when you turn it slow as what happens when it's spinning under engine speed. So I think we're good to go on that. The next thing we're gonna do is start with the tires. As you can see here, we've already got one of the Stefan's old 19-inch Sun F on the new rims. It's good to go. He's working on the other one now. And the next thing we're gonna do is level this thing back out. And we need to see what size tires fit on this. We're thinking 23s are gonna be about max, but we're gonna find out more in a minute. All right, I said I had a little surprise. Well, here it is. We got ourselves another pile of a Sears Custom. This one happens to be a Custom 10. I think it's an XL, I can't see it on the sticker sheet, but I got this tractor for a couple reasons. One, because it has an uncut grill on the front, and two, because I wanted the hubs and the frame as a donor frame to cut a section out of and stretch the Sears 6 that I got. So we need another hub because, as you recall, I broke the one last week. I was trying to get off this Sears here, and I'm still upset about that. We're still gonna have to deal with that to get it off in some way. But I have 2 more chances to get those off, so we have 2 for Colt's tractor for the 111. We're gonna go ahead and get this thing unloaded and see if we can get it off.
All right, watch out. Cheers to Sears.
Imagine that. Wow, that Sears ended up. Yeah.
All right, well, thankfully, out of both of these sides, we just started this, but before we took it off the tractor, I sprayed a bunch of penetrating oil on this one, and I heated it up with a torch till it was smoking hot. Oh,
He's pulling the axle out. Look at
and
that.
we got the axle. We broke the snap ring inside. So, look at that.
Oh, it's full of water. Look at that. Oh, this is fantastic.
So it took the snap ring out of the differential carrier, but at least now we can put this thing in the press and hopefully press it out. Man, that transmission's full of water.
Oh, it's moving. Almost. It's gonna be. Here we go. Whoa!
She be smoking. Well, we finally got it
It broke.
without breaking the hub.
But we broke this. I mean, Dad.
Nothing broke. That's just sockets, dude.
Impact socket just fell out.
There was too much smoke, so I couldn't tell.
All right, now we finally got 2 hubs. These are 3-lug Sears hubs, but they're gonna go on this 820. Now, we gotta take these inside real quick and get all this grease, and we gotta scrub them down, clean them good so we can paint them black. But this is the other one that this thing is piping hot right now, still. But we were able to get the axle out of it, thankfully, without breaking this hub. And so we're gonna get that done. And if you come over here, Stefan has got the Sun Fs mounted, these 19-inch Sun Fs, and they're on ball bearings, and these are new rims. They do have inner tubes because one of these Sun Fs had a hole in it, but that's okay because the 111 is almost ready to come down and go for a ride.
Dad. David, what's all the way down?
All right, guys, we're back. We had to go to Tractor Supply. I had to get some 1-inch machine bushings and some 1/4-inch keyway. So, what I did, I've got a machine bushing up against the bearing. I took a section, I kind of cut 1/8 of an inch off of a piece of 1-inch EMT for an 1/8 inch spacer. We got another machine bushing. Now, we're gonna put our Sears hub, well, we're gonna put our other, I had to get a 6-pack of keyway, so I gotta use 2. They didn't have just one long piece. But now we've got keyway through the entire length of the hub, another machine bushing, and then Stefan's gonna put a snap ring on that. We're also gonna put back the bolt that goes in here. It's gonna go down and push on the keyway that's underneath it. So that's what our hubs came out like. I think we're gonna do good with that. The next thing, we put these 23-inch bar tires because that's what we got for now until I buy a set of mud lights for Colt. So we're gonna go with 23. They fit, but they kind of rub the fender. So I'm in the process of just bending this lip out so it'll clear the tire. It just touches when it was flat. So we've already bent this lip out and I'm working on going around it, trying to find a cleaner way to do it. Otherwise, that's where we're at. Well, it's come down to this. I tried to flare the fenders out and it worked kinda, but it still hits the tire and I can't change the shape of this and have the whole thing flare out because it hits back here hard without this going back to how it was, just the way the sheet metal is shaped. So I just made it symmetrical best I could by eye with some painter's tape, and we're gonna trim this much out of the fender and come around to the back. And so then the tire should fit no problem. All right, we had to pull the wheel back off because I had forgot to put the vent hose. So you can see it here, it comes out 90 degree. And for now, I don't have a filter for it. So we came out the back here, up, and did a loop back down, and it just faces down right here out the back. So we're gonna leave it hanging there, it's zip tied up here, until we can get a filter and make it look a little cleaner. But that's it. What we're gonna do next is put this wheel back on it, and we're gonna fire it up while it's hanging in the air and pop it in gear and see how the clutch and the belt work all together, make sure everything's happy. Then we're gonna go outside. It's dark out right now, but we're gonna go outside and test it out.
Yeah. Dad, on the way out for this one battle with Dad.
All right, everything looks good. The belt's happy, it's not rubbing anything. Everything works as it should. So we're gonna let it down and take it outside for a little bit.
Dad, I'll make another one.
Well, it's definitely a different experience. I'm not used to driving this thing at all, so the front feels different, and I'm not used to the controls because it's dark out there. I can't see nothing, but I popped it from like first or second into third or fourth. I couldn't see, but while I was moving, I hit the clutch a little bit, popped it, let it out, and it pulled a little wheelie out of just, I wasn't expecting it, but it'll do it. And it definitely does not have the same horsepower I thought it might. It seemed powerful when it had that small pulley up front. Now that it has the 6-inch, the horsepower seems a little bit, it's tamed it down some. But when I let the clutch out in fifth on the street, I go full throttle, and it takes a second for the engine to wind up. So it does not have a ton of horsepower, obviously. It's only I think it's a 12 and a half, but it's fun. Crusher, you need to be careful on this thing.
No, Dad, it is a 2.
It's a 12 horsepower, yes. So we're gonna let Colt try to drive this thing now, but yeah, she's a handful. Welcome back to the shop, everybody. It happens to be Thursday, November 28th, Thanksgiving Day. The last time we were working on this was Sunday afternoon. So it was dark out the last clip. We didn't get much footage, but we're gonna go ahead and let Colt take this thing out for the, well, technically the first time. He's already ridden it around some, but he's gonna go showcase this thing, go over some opticals, and then as a bonus to all you guys who stuck around to the end of this video, we have a special treat because if you guys recall, I still have to get that hub off that Sears tractor that I broke. I'm still not happy with it, and it's gonna pay the ultimate price. Runs pretty good, and don't worry, we have a ton of more footage of that thing driving around coming on future videos. We still need to get back tires for it because it's kind of limited. If you recall, just a minute ago, we had to actually push it up that little obstacle we have out front because those back tires are super hard, even though they're completely flat. We took the Schrader valves out of them, and they still just slip on rocks. Those tires are just not good for that tractor. He's gonna get a pair of mud lights, but anyways, moving on. We've got this broken hub that you saw me break earlier in the video. Now, I need to get this off. So we're gonna remove the entire transmission from the tractor, and we're gonna get it off in the most fun way possible. right, guys, we're out here in the barnyard, and the time has come to set this thing off. Now, we got a broken hub. It's stuck on there, and we want to get it off, but instead of using torches and tools and the hydraulic press, let's dive over here to the special tools section. Now, we have a small arsenal of special tools that we're going to be using. We're going to start with the smallest caliber, which is 22 long rifle, and we're going to work our way all the way up to 30-06. The first tool we're going to use is the Ruger 1022. We're going to go ahead and call this the center punch. It's the smallest caliber I have. I actually have 22 short, but I don't have a rifle, just a little snub nose revolver for that. So we're going to stick with this. The next gun I've got here is a Beretta M9, chambered in 9mm. Then we've got a slightly longer 10.5-inch barrel out of the FX9 Freedom Ordnance. It's also 9mm. The next caliber up is a Beretta Model 96, chambered in 40 caliber Smith & Wesson. We've got a Springfield Armory XD 45, chambered in 45 ACP. Next up, we've got a Colt Delta Elite stainless steel, chambered in 10mm auto. Then we've got the 3-pound sledge, which is a Smith & Wesson Model 29, chambered in 44 Magnum. Next, we've got the 5-pound sledge, which is a Smith & Wesson 500, chambered in 500 Magnum. Moving right along, we've got a Mossberg 500, which is maybe a 10-pound sledge equivalent, chambered in 12 gauge, and we've got it loaded up with some 1-ounce slugs. The next thing we've got here is a Molot Vepr 12 gauge, also chambered in 12 gauge, and it is loaded up with 1-ounce slugs, and this is on an AK-47 platform. The next thing we've got is an AR-15 chambered in 5.56, and this is going to be running the 55 grain or 62 grain green tip with the steel penetrator. Next up, we've got an AK-47 chambered in 7.62 by 39, and this is a Zastava. The next we've got is a 450 Bushmaster, or it's an AR-15 chambered in 450 Bushmaster with an 18-inch barrel. Next up, we've got America's favorite Deere rifle. This is a Marlin chambered in 30-30. Next up, we've got a SOCOM 16 chambered in 308. This here is a Finnish M39 Mosin Nagant chambered in 7.62 by 54R. And last, but definitely not least, is a M1 Garand chambered in 30-06. Now, predictions. I think everything up to the rifles isn't going to do much to this thing. That's cast iron on top of hardened axle steel. So I think the 22 is going to just maybe leave a little mar, some lead on the surface, as are the smaller caliber pistols. And I guess we're going to find out. I think the first rifle that's actually going to do anything to this is the AR-15 with the steel core penetrators. And then once we get up to the bigger, more powerful cartridges like 7.62 by 54R and 30-06 especially, I think those might break it up. But the goal is to break that piece of cast iron hub, clean off the axle till it's not there anymore. Let's get started. I'm going to start with the 22, and I'm going to give each caliber up to 5 rounds, depending on what they do to it. If one starts to break it up, I'll just keep hitting it. But unless I also cannot hit it on the first couple shots, because it's going to be a height over bore thing with some of the rifles. And if I don't connect with the first 1 or 2, I'll send more down range. Clear. All right, guys, that was 5 rounds of 22 LR, and just as I suspected, it didn't do anything to it. It just made some surface marks. That's probably just lead. So let's move up to the 9mm. All right, next up, Beretta M9. And these are loaded up with 115 grain jacketed hollow points. Clear. Well, the 9mm out of that pistol, and that's just target ammo, but it didn't do much except it managed to break off one of those gussets. See that gusset right there? This one's missing because it broke off. Let's step it up to the 9mm out of the FX9. It's a slightly longer barrel. It'll get a little bit more velocity, same ammunition. All right, guys, 10.5-inch barrel, FX9 on an AR platform, direct blowback, same ammunition we just used in the M9. Clear. All right, this is looking kind of promising, guys. I think once we get to the rifles, the big rifles, this thing's not going to stand a chance, because if you come in here, that gusset is now cracked, and there's a crack. I know it's hard to see. It runs all the way around over here. I didn't see that before, so I think it's starting to give. And I smacked it hard right there, also with that gun. But let's step it up to the 40 caliber and see if that does anything different. I doubt it. 40 caliber Smith & Wesson out of a Beretta Model 96. Real quick, I've had this gun for over 20 years. I bought it brand new in 2003, I believe. Clear. All right, guys, more of the same. Now, I was using 180 grain jacketed hollow point, flat nose, and it just, same thing, it just made some marks. The crack got a little bigger on that gusset, but I'm starting to think maybe we should, oh, Colt found the piece of the broken off gusset, which was right here. Anyway, I'm starting to think we should bypass the 45 ACP and go straight to the 44 Magnum. I changed my mind. We already had the 45 out, and I haven't shot this gun in a long time. So we're gonna go ahead and do the 45 ACP. It's chambered, well, it's loaded, sorry, with 230 grain full metal jackets. Clear. All right, the 45 made a little progress, but you know, let's face it, every time we hit this thing with a bullet, it's softening it up, it's weakening it, it's doing stuff to the material. So I can't say the 45 just did all that damage, but it's missing the next gusset that was already cracked. And you can see where all this lead is starting to powder up on here and just get smeared into the surface of the cast iron. So let's step it up to 44 mag and see what happens. All right, one of my favorite pistols I own is this Smith & Wesson Model 29. It's basically Dirty Harry's gun. It's a 6.5 inch barrel, and we have it loaded up with 240 grain. I think they're jacketed soft points. Yeah, that's what they are. 240 grain jacketed soft points. So let's see if this thing can break off a big part of that flange. Oh! Yeah, I say there's a power difference there. I felt that one. Oh! Took it right off like it was nothing. We got to save some room for the big rifles though. Oh! Oh! Took it right off like it was nothing. Did he shoot 4 or did he shoot 6? Well, do you feel lucky, punk? All right, guys, as you just saw, the 44 Magnum broke off major pieces of this. So it's still, we have the body of it left and it's on the axle in the back there. Yeah, Jace found a piece of it. So we're breaking off chunks of cast iron. The 44 Magnum had a field day with that. Let's hit it with the 500 Magnum. Try to hit it right there on the middle and see if it'll break it off of the axle. Next up is one of my favorites, but this thing kicks like a mule. It's the 500, the Smith & Wesson 500 Magnum. And what I've got in this gun are 300 grain jacketed soft points. It's like a tube of lipstick. Let's see if this thing can do anything. Let's see if I can even hit that thing. That's a hand cannon. That actually stings the palm. Oh. I know I'm hitting it because it's hitting in the creek. It's deflecting off of the axle. It went right over the top of it and destroyed that rock in the background. Oh. Oh. Well, that was all 5. There's a spent cartridge stuck in there. We'll have to get that out. There we go. It's clear. But I think I only hit it 3 out of 5 times. Let's see what it did. All right, the 500 Magnum did not break this off. It's not even loose yet. I can't pull it off because it should just slide off the axle. But the 500 didn't do anything to this, and I know I hit it because it hit here and the bullet deflected and went down and splashed in the creek. So we bypassed 10 millimeter because I got too excited. I don't think we're gonna revisit the 10 millimeter though. Let's step it up. Let's hit it with a 1 ounce slug and see what happens. Next up is the 1 ounce 12 gauge slug out of the Mossberg 500. All right. I definitely got it both times, but I don't think this soft lead is gonna do anything to that. We're gonna put this on safe. Put it back over here on the bench. Well, I was wrong. So, turns out the 12 gauge 1 ounce slug definitely broke a large chunk right off of the axle. So, I kind of want to move on and see what a rifle will do to this before it becomes completely busted. And I don't know, this transmission is full of water. The gear shifter's all seized up. We might have to give it a little playtime with the other rifles somewhere besides the axle. I don't know yet. Yeah, that's the piece that the 12 gauge took off. Yep, let's see, Crush. Yeah, we got some metal bits coming off, but it's still stuck on there. It's still seized on the axle. Let's see what a AR-15 will do to it with some 5.56 green tip. Next up is a rifle that I've had for a lot of years. I kind of put this thing together back around 2012, back when everybody was panic buying guns. So it's a US M4 lower with a BCM upper. It's got a few other pieces and parts on it, like this quad rail. That's old school because now they're all the different style ones with the M-lock and all that other stuff. But this has an EOTech reticle, and it's also got a Fostech Echo trigger in it that has the binary function where it shoots when you pull the trigger and fires upon release. So you can kind of get it going and simulate full auto. And we're loaded up with Lake City ammunition, military surplus stuff. It's the 62 grain green tip with the steel penetrator. Now I think that this stuff is just gonna chew that thing up and knock pieces off of it. Let's try it out. We're hot. We're only gonna put it on single shot mode for this. I can hit it. All right, I'm having a little bit of an issue hitting it because of the height over bore. All right, let me try to get back a little bit because this thing's sighted in for I don't know how many yards. Let me co-witness. Got it. Let me get back a little further, because I only hit it once so far. I got it. Got it. I'm hitting it now. I think I see axle. Yeah, I think it's gone. Let's go see. Hold on. Magazine out. Clear. All right, guys, well, my predictions were correct. The AR-15, that steel core stuff, the velocity it's putting out, you know, it's probably somewhere in the neighborhood of 3,000 feet per second with a steel penetrator. Well, it did exactly what I thought. Not only did it take off what was left of the axle hub, but I managed to hit here, I guess, right on the bearing housing. You can see exposed bearings, and you can see the axle itself where the bullet hit dead center on the axle. So it definitely put a nice splash in that steel too. So the hub is off officially, but the transmission is also now more or less ruined. I could put another tube on this. I could put it on the shelf. I could try to rebuild it, maybe save an ancient piece of American history. Or we can use the rest of the rifles and send this thing to its graveyard. All right, I'm gonna take a step back. I'm gonna hit it with this Molot Vepr 12 gauge. It's got 5 rounds of one ounce slug in it. It's one of my favorite guns to shoot. This thing is cool. Let's go. Oh! Right through the case. You see the water splashing out of it. That thing's full of water. Oh, right through the case. You see the water splashing out of it. That thing's full of water. And we're empty. We're clear. The bolt locks back on the last round and you can see the chamber's empty. All right, well, that was a different situation because we hit hollow cast iron, not cast iron that was on top of hard steel. But as you can see, that 1 ounce slugs easily busted that case apart, and it took off teeth from the bull gear. This axle is officially done. This whole thing's just done. So now I don't feel too bad about sending it all the way. And you can see here, that's what was inside this thing. It's 58 years old, guys, and I just don't think there was much saving it. Plus, when I build that Sears, I'm gonna be putting John Deere 2300s in the Sears anyway. I never had intentions of using this. It was already bound for the scrapyard. We're gonna send it all the way. All right, we're gonna hit it with the AK next, and I've got some special rounds in there. These are Hornady 123 grain. These are meant to hunt with. I guess it's for bolt action probably. It'll work in this just fine, but it's a lacquer coated case with the soft tips. So you could load it into a lever action or, you know, deer hunt with this stuff. That also helps it expand when it hits soft medium. All right, let's tear that thing up. I could hear bullet fragments raining down on all the metal roofs. All right, we still have some left, but I'm gonna clear this one out and we're gonna move on to another caliber. Clear. The AK-47, the 7.62 by 39 definitely did some damage. We took off a big piece here. And we've got gear oil and water mixed just raining down all over the place. You can see more teeth are missing. There's some bullet jacket and lead fragments stuck in here. So we're gonna go ahead and move on. Let's try out the 450 Bushmaster next. Next, I've got an AR-15 platform chambered in 450 Bushmaster. Now, just like the Hornady rounds, these might also be Hornady, but these are, I believe these are 200 some odd grain, maybe 280. Jacketed soft points, the polymer tip. I've only got 3 rounds in this thing, and I don't really anticipate this doing too much damage, but we're gonna send it just anyway. We just blew a new hole in the top of the case, but we are clear, bolts locked back. All right, the 450 does pack a punch. It made a new hole right through here, and I only shot 3 rounds. I don't feel like going fishing around trying to find more, but we're gonna move on to some more exciting calibers. Let's try the 30-30 next and see what happens with that. Next up, we have the Marlin chambered in 30-30. This gun was actually sold by Western Auto Parts in 1968. And another fact about this gun is it is the second firearm I ever bought in my life. I bought this when I was 19 years old. The first being a 22 LR Ruger 1022. This was the second gun. I bought this from a pawn shop, and I had it for a long time, and when I was about 20 years old, I gave it to my grandfather when he moved away to North Florida, and he had it for a long time. Then back in 2014, after he passed away, I got this firearm back from his house, and it's back in my possession, but it's got some history to it, and we're gonna go ahead. It's loaded up with some jacketed soft points. I think they're 220 grain, could be wrong, but anyway, we're gonna go ahead and send it out. I also have not shot this gun since I was about 19 or 20 years old. And I'm gonna be 47 next month. Oh, the top's starting to break off. I'm gonna see if I can send it. That's it, out of ammo. Well, the 30-30 almost had this hanging by one eye bolt because I was tearing up all through here, and this piece is about to be broken off and will be hanging by just one on the axle tube. So I think the next gun is going to send that and make that happen. Next up, we've got a Springfield SOCOM 16 chambered in 308 NATO. We got some Lake City ammunition, full metal jacket, and we are gonna dislodge that transmission, I believe, on this one. Oh, I knew it. I knew I was coming. I knew I was coming. clear. Well then, we have ourselves a fully exposed internal transmission. So there's some interesting stuff going on here. Looks like we've got a bearing race hanging out from the axle tube. We've got entry holes. We've got exit holes. I think that's an exit. We've got bolts broken off the case. We've got on the needle bearing on the differential carrier, we've got a big divot there where a 308 nailed it just now. So yeah, she's looking pretty tore up. We got two rifles left. Next, we have a Finnish M39, which is a captured Mosin Nagant from the Second World War, where the Finns took these guns in and they re-arsenaled them to their liking. So this is actually an early hex receiver, and it's dated 1944, but I think that's the stamp the Finnish put on it, because it's probably an earlier model than that, being a hex. It's probably from the 20s. Anyway, this is 7.62x54R. I believe these rounds have a steel penetrator, and I only got 5, so let's see what this gun will do to it. I saw a spark. Hey, that's all I got. Let's move on to the next gun. The 7.62x54R is definitely no slouch, and I was aiming at the bull gear, the carrier here, and you can see some of the jacket, and there's some more damage in there from after the 308, but there's some jacket material coming out right there. But that 7.62x54R, that stuff's pretty good. Now let's move on to the very last caliber, and the most, I think, the most special gun that we have now. All right guys, last but not least, we have a very nice example of an M1 Garand. Now, real quick history. This rifle I purchased several years ago from a gentleman named Larry Toller. Now, Larry was a very good friend of my wife's family up in Illinois, and I actually met Larry back in 2014 around Christmas time. We went to visit him, and now that being 10 years ago, we went up there. I spent some time with Larry in his basement while Megan, my wife, visited with his wife, and he was showing me some of his gun collection, and we were talking about guns, and he showed me this weapon, and he said that one day when he parted with it, that he would notify me and sell it to me. Well, fast forward, I want to say 2022, maybe 2021, can't remember, but we were living here in Tennessee, and I received a letter in the mail, and it looked like an average letter, like something that a company would send you with some fake cursive writing, because they do that to get you to open stuff, you know. And I almost threw it away, and I didn't, and I opened it, and it was from Larry. It was a nice handwritten letter, you know, explaining that he was ready to part with this weapon, this rifle, and asked if I would be interested in purchasing it. Well, of course I was. So we purchased the rifle, and fast forward till just a few weeks ago, you know, Larry was getting a little bit older. You know, I believe he was in his early 90s, and he was living in an assisted home, and we went to visit him just a few weeks ago, and I thanked him in person because I did not personally go buy the rifle from him back then. I couldn't make it up there. But I thanked him in person, shook his hand, talked to them. We spent, you know, some time there with him visiting. And unfortunately, Larry passed away just a couple days ago. So I'm gonna fire this gun in his honor. It holds 8 rounds in clips. If you're not familiar with the M1 Garand, the bolt will lock back because the clip follower is there. I'm gonna hold the bolt back, push this down, and we're loaded up. I'm gonna shoot all 8 and listen for the ping at the end. Almost got the whole thing to drop. I was working on that last eye bolt, but we ran out. Anyway, this is a gorgeous rifle. And thank you, Larry. All right, guys. That 30-06 out of that M1 Garand is probably arguably the most powerful cartridge I've got, next to the 7.62 by 54R. So, as you can see, I was aiming at this and I was able to break off the eye bolt where it mounted to the axle, and it actually sheared the threads on that. That bullet went in there through the boss on the axle tube and sheared off the whole thing, including the steel of this eye bolt. So it's all opened up. I was aiming over here to try to get this one to break so the whole transmission would fall, but didn't happen. And I'm not gonna shoot this thing anymore today. I think it's had enough. I still wanna save the shifter, this piece here, which did not get hit, amazingly. But I need to put this maybe on the John Deere transmission. Oh, look, it loosened up a little bit. Now we can kind of shift. But there you go. Well, we got some broken gears in here. Yeah, so can a Peerless 2300 stand up to a bunch of gunfire? I'd say that's a resounding no. All right, guys, thanks for hanging around till the end. This is also gonna be a separate video, but for those of you guys that watch these mower build videos all the way to the end, much appreciated. Anyway, let's take it back in the shop, close this video out. All right, guys, that's gonna do it for this video. The 111 is finally complete. Like I said, all we need to do now is get the 23-inch mud lights. That's a couple weeks out. Otherwise, this thing's great. It runs, drives, Colt loves it. It's got big tires. It's a little monster truck. So let me know also in the comments if you guys want more firearms content, because I do have a ton of those things, you know, just laying around. So besides that, if you're new to the channel, please also like, comment, subscribe. And as always, I'm Jason.
I'm Stephen.
I'm Jason too.
This is Tennessee Mountain Homestead, and we will see you on the next one. I got him. Oh, I got him.
No.
Where are you going?
Detroit.
Thanksgiving?
Yeah.
Thanksgiving.